After months of research and getting mortgage approved, walking around neighborhoods, doing calculations, it's time to do a video on the property market in Dublin once again. Renting versus buying, taking a look at investment properties, doing all of that good stuff. Hey, I'm Andreas. I've been investing for over 10 years. In today's video, let's cover the property market in Dublin. Alright, so how is the loan terms locally in Ireland? I did the whole process. Takes a lot of time. Everything's still done by paper here. But on screen now, you can see the repayment schedule for a 35-year mortgage via one of the largest Irish banks. These are the terms and conditions. This is the first piece of crucial information that we need when we're doing the calculation to see if it's profitable or not to buy a property here. As you can see in the columns, we have amortization and we have interest. Amortization is actually paying down on the loan, and then interest, well, that's the profit for the bank in this case. Of course, rates will vary. If it's a higher energy efficient home, you can get lower interest rates. This is just a normal loan, so it's a bit higher percentage on that interest. What really sticks to you? What gets in your face when you watch this? Well, after 20 years, that's when you start paying more in amortization than you actually do in interest. So you're not really paying down that mortgage as quickly as many people in society today thinks. I see a lot of people get super surprised that they've been living in a home for 5 years. They're selling it, maybe the market's been down a little bit like it's been now, and all of a sudden they're sitting there with a loss. A lot of people in, for example, Sweden, where I'm from, have been losing money on the property deals now. So it's not only skyrocketing, housing prices are not only increasing, believe it or not, Zoomers, they go down from time to time as well, like we saw here in recent years. Alright, so how can you do a decent comparison? Of course, it's gonna depend on situation, if you're renting out a room, if you're just using it for the family. But generally, if there's no cash flow, then it's just an expense. So let's take a look at that scenario here today. If you're not renting out a room or anything like that, and you just want to buy because you're tired of renting and you're not building any equity, you're not making any money, and society told you that this is bad. Well, in this case, we take a look at, for example, the interest column. You can see that this is on a yearly basis. If you divide by 12, you can see that the cost is slightly less than 1,000 a month in this case. So if you only have 1,000 euros as the rent, well, then perhaps it can make sense. But then you also have amortization. Of course, that's an investment in some cases. And then you have shadow costs on top of this. For example, when I signed up for the mortgage here, immediately before I even signed the documents for, alright, this is the line of credit, I get a call for somebody selling repayment insurance, because by law you have to sign up for insurance in case you were to die and not be able to make your mortgage payments. So that's on top of it, and then you have homeowners insurance in case the property burns down, repair costs, and a general rule of thumb that I've heard from people owning properties, people doing some investment properties, is to add about 50% on top of the other stable costs here to get the phantom costs. The fridge breaking, the roof needing repairing, the new double-glassed windows, relining of the old pipes, or switching the pipes. There's a ton to it with home ownership. So costs quickly increase by a lot. And it does make more sense when you look at the calculation that I showed earlier. It looks like a more attractive deal. It was 288,000 euro mortgage. And now comes the twist of the video, because this type of mortgage will not get you anything nice in Dublin, but it makes sense if you utilize government schemes where you get sponsored 20% of the house price and you get a reduced price. This type of scheme, using this type of mortgage, then you get this calculation. So if you want to buy a property off the regular housing market, it gets even more expensive than what you saw earlier. And people, they rarely do this math. They just buy it because, you know, that's what society tells you to do, and have a crazy large payment that they have to make for home every month. I had a discussion with the helper here on the channel regarding mortgages, showed him this picture that you also saw. And one thing that stuck out to him, and I'm sure it stuck out to a lot of you when you looked at the picture as well, is, isn't the mortgage supposed to be 20 years? Was the comment. Well, if we look at history, it used to be these shorter 15, 20 year, and it was also larger down payments in the past. Houses were a lot cheaper back then, very much so indeed. But then, as time's gone on and houses has become more and more unaffordable, well, the mortgage length increases. So as we saw today, this was for 35 years, and the down payment is reduced. In America, before the housing crisis, they had ninja loans with nothing down, no down payment, no interest, everything frozen in the beginning. We saw where that led. But this is the trend that the housing market is being pushed toward, in terms of borrowing terms, longer loans for larger loans with less down payment. And one of the major drivers of this trend is, of course, the supply side. A lot of regulation and less is being built, but also that demand is unyielding, because we've been programmed to think that, all right, just buying a home is a big sign of success, and that's what you gotta do to be a good upstanding citizen or something like this, and then we buy at any cost. I think that for the market today, when I do my calculations, it makes sense to buy a home if you rent out one of the rooms, and if you use a government scheme to get price reductions, first time buyer schemes, and this sort of deal, then it makes sense. It's also a very large commitment, and you would need to live there. When I was younger, the advice that I got from my neighbor who was in the property market was that it made sense to buy if you were to live there for 5 years and longer. This is a very large developer in my hometown, a ton of property information, but this was 10 years ago, and housing prices has only increased then. And next Christmas I go back, I'm gonna ask again and see, all right, does this advice still stand, or do you think that you need to live somewhere for 8 or 9 years now and not sell, flip, because you get all these extra costs when you buy and sell, with the realtor, with stamp duty, with transfer of land, all this kind of thing that also adds up, solicitor fees? Or do you still think that 5 years is a good one? Also, for the community, how long do you think you have to live to make it profitable to look away of all these fees? Do you agree with the 5 years that I heard 10 years ago, or is it different in your experience? Alright, that's been it for this video, talking a bit about the housing market in Dublin. And as always, hope you make a ton of money, whatever investment you decide to make. Take care now. Bye bye.